Dang it, you caught me. Put ice pack on my itches, on my incisions. Who's on here tonight? Who's my pretties? Say something so I know who I'm talking to. There's my girls. I wasn't scratching. I was putting an ice pack on it. Thank you very much. The ice pack helps. I figured it out. Hi, Vincy Lou Who. Smack Nina for me, please. Third person on here, if it's not letting you comment, try subscribing to the channel, and I think that allows you to comment. I'm still working on that part. I haven't quite figured this out yet. We'll see. Vincy, did Nina show you the picture of her new stud? I got tea tonight. Hola, Mari. Buenas noches. Te amo. Vincy, do you know how to make crunchy taco shells? Or not taco shells, but crunchy taco salad shells. You know, like the bowls, the crunchy bowls. Just curious. I figured you probably would. I mentioned Nina's name today, and he just perked right up there. Well, welcome, third person. No, we can't find them right now. It's hard to find the bowls. Third person, welcome. Appreciate you. I don't know if that's Sonya or if it's somebody else. But I appreciate you being here. You get to watch the crazy show. All right. You guys ready to get started? So, again, Nina is like stuck on sex. I mean, like for reals. She, it's already on though. She's got on the event and on everything else that she's posted to, she's got sex deadly steps. It's 6 deadly steps. Who is who, Nina? Just, you guys talk amongst yourself. So tonight I'm reading 6 deadly steps. It's book number 6 in Escaping the Mafia by Sonya Jesus. So this is the cover. It's a very good looking cover. So I'm going to read a prologue in the first 2 chapters, I believe. Okay. Oh, by the way, I'm dressed up because I went to the doctor today. Not my stomach doctor, my fibromyalgia doctor, and everything's cool. She's happy. So just letting you know. Yeah, I'm dressed up. Okay. So prologue. Isabella Santini, 6 years ago. St. Teresa stands tall in one of the most prevalent neighborhoods near the Hudson River in Manhattan. It's a gated community, nearly impossible to leave, and my home for the last 4 years. In the darkness of night, I wait for Luca and Pix at the entrance of the old chapel. Overlooking the river, the winter breeze picks up and hits my cheeks, the strands of my hair moving to the rhythm of the night air. My heart aches to be in Luca's arms, to feel his lips on mine and his skin against my skin. He's late, and I miss him. My phone chimes with a message from my best friend, Charlotte Pixton. Pix, the booze is wearing off. I'm crashing. Don't get caught. We had just spent an hour pre gaming in our dorm room, an early pre celebration for escaping our Catholic prison. Pix's boyfriend had snuck in through an office window and joined our celebrating. Luca is running late, but only by a few minutes. I smile and lean against the church, texting her back and wishing I had brought gloves. My fingertips are freezing. Bells. Is it wearing off, or are your clothes coming off? Pix. Shh! Stop making me blush. He's going to think it's because of him. Bells. Text me when it's safe to come back. She doesn't reply, so I assume my best friend is happily getting her sexy on. A gate squeaks open from my right side near the modern-style glass pool building that I loathe with every ounce of my being. I glance up from my screen to find Luca tipping one of the guards with a plastic-wrapped block of white powder. He doesn't hide it, nor does he hide his presence. In this abandoned, squared-in courtyard, anyone can glance out the windows and spot him. But he strides toward me, looking like sin and a whole lot of I don't give a damn. Urgh. Connected. Straight up, badass, and bad attitude. Which I fucking love. It appeals to the rebel inside me, but mostly because I know Luca Cabrali is different than any other guy I have ever been with. He loves me enough to show me the soft-hearted guy beneath his exterior. When it's him and me, it's just us, and our fathers don't make a lick of difference. With all their power and all their influence, neither of them could control love. Then again, neither of them know about our little secret. I took the phone in my back jean pocket and rested against the stone wall of the church, watching him, basking in his smoldering presence. My cheeks reddened with the heat traveling through me. It's hot and it's fucking winter in New York. Luca definitely cuts through the courtyard, defiantly cuts through the courtyard, cigarette stuck between his lips, eyes narrowed on my waist before they meet my eyes. He always takes his time, admiring my body, every damn inch, before his eyes latch onto mine and hook me forward. Always forward, always desperate for his touch. And he knows it. You're late. I pop my brow and cross my hands in front of my chest, purposely drawing attention to the rounded globes he loves so much. Hey, Bells. He drops his cigarette on the ground and grinds it into the cement with the tip of his shoe. Well, he wraps his arms around my waist and hugs me tight before his smoky breath lands on my lips. I breathe it in, nicotine and mint, like addiction flavored gum. And when he kisses me, I kiss him again. Time evaporates along with distance, and where words should define our hello, he spells out his greeting with the tip of his tongue, dragging it along my bottom lip and sending shivers through my bones. They ache and break and almost bend. Nearly impossible. I know, and yet I'm malleable in his arms, contorting and twisting in ways I didn't know possible, ready to mold my body around his, and be skin to skin and heart to heart. Want to go somewhere else? He asked between quickened breaths. Pix is busy in our room, so I cock my head to the side and lead him into the empty small church. Before I register it, Luca picks me up and takes the 2 steps up the sacred altar. For a second, we pause and take in our surroundings, but then it doesn't matter. The fleeting minute of our consciousness is quickly replaced by the need flowing through us. It had been 2 weeks since I last saw Luca, and 2 weeks of hell for the both of us. Phone calls had not been enough. Nothing is ever enough with Luca. He trails kisses down my neck, stopping just before the dip of my collarbone. Blood rushes through my veins. With his lips, he measures my throbbing pulse, summoning it to the surface. One touch, one beat, one soft kiss, and it skips. Lips collide with skin. Together we introduce ourselves to the kind of love that marks the soul, that fuses two strangers together and makes them a part of each other forever. One shy kiss hello, two for stay, three for never leave. When his lips touch mine for the fourth time in the church, the butterflies in my stomach fly up to my throat, stealing my ability to breathe and tickling a moan out of my vocal cords. My lips tingle and ache at the gentleness and the urgency of his touch, and between fluttering kiss wings, we kiss our innocence away. Whatever is left of it. He's not my first kiss, because the title was given away freely, much too carelessly, but it's the first time I see a future with someone. Each kiss intensifies at the distance between us as the distance between us diminishes, fully clothed bodies coming together as if the fabric doesn't exist. His hands are everywhere, in my hair, cupping my cheek, on my thighs. He lifts me in the air and places me on the table like altar, nestling himself between my thighs as he kisses me. Then, this isn't an oath of marriage, but it's an oath to each other. Neither of us need words to show love. His heart is in his eyes, and mine is on my sleeve. Palpable, visible love. My past didn't matter with him. It never has. What Luca and I have isn't chemistry, it's acid, dissolving shame, past, and guilt as it spreads over my skin, corroding through my defenses. Here tonight, he isn't Luca Cabrali, and I'm not Isabella Santini. I don't care that our fathers hate each other. The love between us is enough. His fingers slide into the waistband of my jeans, and with one thumb he unfastens the button. After lifting my shirt up over my head and placing a kiss to my belly button, he angles my upper body so I'm propping myself up on my elbows. With his teeth, he pulls down the zipper of my jeans, his warm breath right at my entrance. I moan as he lifts my hips up and slides my jeans and panties off. My sneakers get in the way, and we giggle as he fumbles with them and yanks them off, cursing in the process. He spreads my legs and nestles himself between my thighs again. Right there, right at the entrance of my gate, he parts my folds and kisses me slowly. It's not long before heaven flows through me, angelic or devilish or pure fucking voodoo. It's witchcraft, sexual fucking magic, and he's the spell. I'm under and over and all in my heart, anywhere but in my head, because there, in my mind, between the grooves and safely tucked between the folds, my secrets lie. In Luca's presence, they don't exist. No blood, no water, no death, no guilt casting shadows in my heart. Ooh, this is going to be good. Chapter 1. No one remembers. Isabella Santini. My fingers rush over the soft material of my wedding dress. The softest silk tulle is lightweight and stunning in the warm lights of the mirrorless dressing room. Yet I've never felt so weighted down before. I sigh softly as the woman pins and plucks at the fabric. She's seated beside me on the velvet carpet floor, the length of the train wrapped around her stout shoulders as she carefully examines, inch by inch, the placement of the appliques. Instead of a pen holder, she balances the pointy metal pieces between her rosy lips, carefully threading one out whenever she finds something out of place. Missing the obvious one, me. The framework of the ball gown dress is beautiful, like something out of a couture bridal magazine. The built-in corset with a sweetheart neckline hugs my breasts just right, rounding them perfectly to accentuate my bust, while reducing the size of my waist. I'm not quite sure where the extra 20 or so pounds relocated to, but there's no back chub or hip humps where the corset ends. Smooth, elegant, sparkly. Obnoxiously ostentatious. None of this is me. Not the silky tulle imported from Milan or the Swarovski. I have a hard time with that now. Swarovski crystals embellishing the bodice, or the miniature sparkles adorning the invisible sleeves. Not even the delicate appliques recovered from my mother's wedding dress are enough to bring a smile to my face. Because despite being custom designed for me and fitted to me, it wasn't made for me. You're the one that was talking about sex all day, Nina. You should have known to bring your toy. It was made by Pepe Santina, the Don of Chicago. The extravagant gown meant to highlight his daughter on the happiest day of her life is meant to trick the guest into admiring his love for me. It's a it's a facade just like the rest of my life. Why does my brain sometimes look at some words and goes, what the hell is that word? And I've read it a zillion times. I've said it too. And yet all of a sudden I can't even read it. My wedding guest, a facade. It's a facade, just like the rest of my life. Ugh. My wedding guests are people who judge me for my past and cluck their tongues at me anytime I walk by. Old women who view my youth as an outcry will watch my father give me away to the man I chose to marry, sporting tears in the corner of their eyes. Men who my father calls family will witness the oath that will turn my fiance into the next Don. All of them will smile proudly to cover up the jealousy bubbling beneath their skin. None of them will be there to rejoice with me. That's not how things go in the mafia. And there's nothing about forcing me to marry Tony Astori that's worth rejoicing over. Because to the mafia, I'm nothing more than a bambola, a doll. Dress up, look pretty, and shut the fuck up. That's been my job since I got kicked out of boarding school at 18. For 5 years, Pepe's kept me tucked at home, reforming me into a woman fit to be at the side of a king. While he molded my skin with beatings and threatened the rebellion out of me, he never bothered to learn anything about me. Everything is always about him. My father needs this wedding, needs me, so the truth doesn't come out. It's a well-known fact around Old Ridge, Chicago, that Pepe's business is more than just buying and selling buildings. The real estate tycoon persona is just for show. This small town is full of rich people who got rich with help from my father. So, him being a it's mafia in Italian, mafoso, isn't a secret, but they don't know all his dirty little secrets. Not like I do. Not that anyone would believe me. Everyone thinks of me as the rebel mafia princess, the girl who screwed a rival mafia prince on the altar of her Catholic boarding school, desecrating the holy place of worship and getting kicked out for burning down the chapel. Granted, as a teen, I did shit I shouldn't have. Smoked weed in the basement of the dorms with my best friend, Charlotte Pixton, and stole the money from the fundraiser to break us out of prison our fathers put us in. I escaped constant protective detail and put myself in danger. But I've also seen a lot of stuff I shouldn't have, like the bloody massacre of my 4 brothers and my mother in the very home my father and I still live in. I heard it all from the treehouse. I guess every one of my future wedding guests forgot I found my family's bodies. That at the age of 12, I held my younger brother while he gave his last breaths, tears pouring down his blood streaked face, blood pooling from his lips as he tried to speak and breathe. I pried him out of my unconscious mother's hands. One bullet sufficed for two humans. It took me over a minute of staring into his beautiful blue eyes, inundated by an ocean of goodbyes, to realize he was no longer blinking. That part no one remembers. Alone, I found my oldest brother, shot in the back of the head near the pool. Blood soaked the light brown stone beneath him, his hand dangling over the circular protrusion into the tinted water, as if he had been reaching for my other brothers who lifelessly floated in the rectangular pool. It took me almost drowning to realize they were dead. No one remembers how I hid behind the large, thick pillar, my feet firmly planted on the first step of the pool, the bottoms of my pants soaked through with blood infused water, while someone rummaged through the wicker lawn furniture for something. My fingers tingled as I flattened my back against the pillar, hyper focused on controlling my breathing. I've always been afraid of water, and that day my fear became a phobia. Because my eyes were closed, strained shut from the fear, while I prayed for God to hide me, I saw no face, heard no voice, just the rustle of fabrics brushing against each other and the sound of glass breaking. When the mercury scent mixed with chlorine and pine from the wooded area in the backyard evicted my breakfast from the clutches of my stomach, I was sure my position was discovered. But just before the feeling overwhelmed me for a second time, a light went on in my father's office. I sloshed out of the water and dragged my wet sneakers through the house, almost slipping on the kitchen tile. Had I stayed at the pool, they would have seen me. I tiptoed around the house, unsure of where to hide, trembling as I found no guard in sight. Sundays were brunch days at Celio, and I was alone in the house with a murderer. With no one to help, I tucked myself between the sofa and the wall in the living room. My hands curled around my ankles. The wet material clung to my calves as I silently cried in the room where my little brother had died, where I thought my mother's life had ended, but she softly whispered my name. With the little strength I had, I crawled over to her in haste, nearly giving my location away when a strangled cry twisted my vocal cords and threatened to ring them like a fire alarm. Yeah, no one remembers how I tried to drag my mother's body by the arm as she weakly gasped for me to run. She didn't cling to life then, not like I clung to her. She didn't even try to get up because she knew her babies were all dead. She gave up on living before she died. With her last words, she begged me to leave, to run and save myself. I should have stayed or called the police or died with them, but I was too scared. Too scared to live without them, too scared to move, too scared to disobey and interrupt my father. But I ran up the stairs, tucked into my closet, and carefully removed the old toy box, blocking the small latch to the tunnel only my brothers and I knew about. I ran in the dark until I hit the lawn, followed the unknown path to the side gate, and kept running and running until I reached the small town center my father always frequented. When I swung the doors to Celio open, I was out of breaths, out of tears, and out of words. Lady, you turn? The woman with the heavy accent gently taps on my hand, her fingers unintentionally hitting the large circular diamond and jolting me out of my flashback. I lift my hand up to stare at the gaudy halo-cut engagement ring, an outer row of 24 small diamonds shaped in tears circled a smaller row, both haloing a large stone that stuck out at the center. Like this, she says when I don't move. Her palms latch onto my calves, and she uses her elbows to hold out the layers of the gown so that on my pedestal I am able to move freely. As I shift in her direction, I glance down at the top of her head. Just a little bit of black peppered hair is visible. The rest of her The rest of her is buried in the pristine white material. I snort. Not because of her actions, but because this dress and the stupid ring on my finger are symbols for me, for my life as a Santini. Never able to move freely, always confined within four walls, a circle of guards always haloing me, and like the bright shining diamond in the center, I'm always on a pedestal. Isabella, the designer Valerio Voigt, knocks on the door, startling the woman underneath my skirt. You ready to come out? The man's annoyed tone doesn't leave much room for denial. I don't blame him. He was supposed to be with his family in the Bahamas, and the Don persuaded him to stay until my wedding day on Sunday. Persuade, threaten, remove, options, all the same thing to Pepe. Okay, I was just making sure that wasn't something I needed. The woman sticks her head out, and though there are much fewer pins between her lips now, she still mumbles out a "Je vamos" from the left side of her mouth. I've gotten rid of your groom. The owner of Vivi Designs speaks to me. I convinced Tony to wait for you outside, away from the atelier. He thinks I'm worried about Tony seeing my dress and causing bad luck to infiltrate my life. I was born into bad luck. Sometimes I wonder if this guy even knows who I am and what my father does for a living. The woman who had been helping me swats me on the bum beneath my layers, getting me to move. I'm going, I announce, stunned at the bold action. Once she stands up, she winks at me and says, beautiful. It sounds more like a Halloween joke until her hand cups my cheek and the corner of her lips point downward. No smile, she whispers. The blink that follows lasts a little longer than I had intended it to. A very weak smile tugs at the corner of my mouth, answering her question. Out there with eyes on me, I have to be Isabella the princess. When it's just me, I can be Isabella the conqueror, the one who plots patricide while she sleeps next to the man she's going to betray. As if understanding, the Portuguese seamstress again invades my personal space and pushes the corner of my lip up. Rija, she says with a confident nod and a squeeze of her flappy bicep, as if I understood a lick of Portuguese. She gathers up the layers as I step down, bracing myself to face the designer my father commissioned, and no doubt the guards waiting for me just outside the door. No way Tony would leave me alone for one fucking second. If something happened to me, his future wouldn't be secure. He wants into this family almost as much as I want out. Vinny's always willing to pick up the slack when his boss is at this club, getting his fill of high-class hookers who will do things I wouldn't even fathom doing in the basement. I shiver off the conditioned response, repulsed not by what Tony does, but what can happen to me. My fingers curl around the doorknob, slowly opening the door. The designer gasps, and even Vinny's stoic face flashes with something. I'm not sure what, because it lasts all of 3 seconds before his brows furrow and his eyes narrow on me. Every time I see him, I get the urge to flash him my middle finger. But then I remind myself of the plan and get back on track. 6 steps, Isabella. I chime as I saunter toward the center of the room, swinging my hips so the material sways with the motion. Pretend to be the doll a little while longer. Do you like it, Vinny? I asked, just to piss him off. You look fine, His monotonous tone makes it clear he does not mean fine as in jump your bones fine, just fine as in passable. Mediocre. I harumph as I look at the stunning dress that cost over $400,000. Fine, Valerio Voigt crosses his arms in front of his chest and stares Vinny down. This is couture. I don't care. Vinny enunciates and shifts my purse from one hand to the other. I care that she's been in here for an hour and the schedule only allotted 70 minutes for this visit. Do what you have to do so I can get her home for her conference call with the favor vendor and rehearsal menu testing. Those last two words come out through gritted teeth. With Tony and my father usually busy with business, Vinny's been forced to accompany me on all my wedding planning dates. Being the dutiful bride has its perks, not traditional ones, of course. I don't plan on actually stepping foot inside the church, but I need them to think I'm invested, and personally, I'm very enjoying annoying the shit out of Vinny. It's my guilty pleasure and strategic. Anytime I take a call from a vendor, Vinny leaves me alone before I rope him into something else, or God forbid, ask his opinion. Given most of the orders come from the Don, Vinny keeps most of his obnoxious comments to himself. As for me, since the Don's paying for everything, no matter how over the top or ridiculous it is, I'm happy to indulge his expensive wishes only because it gives me access to all his accounts. I pay the vendors and siphon some extra for me because being a stupid princess, or doll as Beppe prefers to call me, also means I'm broke until I inherit the fortune. Until then, I'm picturing some French designer that's obnoxious and just, I don't know. Until then, private jets to fly guests in from Italy are very expensive, so is renting out the aquarium dome for the reception, and my father loved the idea of serving lobster in front of the fish. How much longer? Vinny huffs out as he brings a finger to his earpiece. 30 minutes. The designer takes my hand and helps me up on the pedestal in front of the trifold mirror with stream lights and below a ceiling mirror. Both he and the seamstress stretch the train out in order to show me the full effect of the gown. It's not the first time I've seen it. This is my 15th fitting, and more than likely, not my last. But the mirror does allow me a good view of everything in the atelier. Even the street behind me. I don't see Tony, just four guards dressed in suits, plastered outside, their backs to me. Vinny's rubbing his hand across his forehead. Everything okay? I ask while watching his reflection in the mirror. Tony is probably enjoying the perks of Unita. He and Vinny got off from brunch at Celio to escort me. Vinny looks over his shoulder and then at me, but doesn't answer me right away. He's probably listening to someone on the earpiece. All the guards have them. The town is small, so they are free to move around it and keep each other up to date. Vinny, I ask, because I'm still his boss, which he really hates. His eyes shoot up to me, and he presses his lips together, holding up a finger in the air. He needs a minute. Is he always like that? The designer asks as he carefully hands the seamstress my veil. I smile and crack a joke, which is unusual for me. I prefer aloofness in my public life, and during my private life, I do my best to hold my emotions. Showing them never works out well for me. He doesn't usually talk as much. Isabella. My eyes shoot back up to Vinny's reflection in the mirror. With a raised brow, I ask for an elaboration. Your father's coming. He's walking from the church. The guys will be just outside the door. Don't leave. His eyes shift to the designer, transferring vigilance over to him, or rather threatening him, something the designer seems obvious to. Great. Great. I'd love for him to see me in this. Great. I'd love for him to see me in the dress again. He always has such great opinions. My stomach tightens at my lie, nearly twisting my carefully created smile into a grimace. The designer's shoulders rise and slump before he glances at his watch. I'm going to order us some lunch from Celio. No need, Vinny says. One of our men is reserving a table for you. The Don wants to have lunch together. I whip my head around, nearly knocking the woman over. What? A momentary frown crosses Vinny's lips. I'm not sure of it because of my impromptu reaction or Bepe's uncanny ability to inflict pain in any way he knows how. Everyone knows I don't eat at Celio, not since the day of the massacre. Does Tony know? He's a dick. But at some point, my fiance actually cared about me. Back when he lusted after me and I appealed to the perverse part of him. No. Vinny taps on his ear and nods. You need to call the caterer and have them send over the food to Celio, or do you want me to do it? They constantly go through my things, so it doesn't surprise me when he digs into my purse and holds my phone out. If you can call them, it would be perfect, but you have to tell them to keep the food at... He cuts me off and steps forward, handing me the phone. Why don't you call? Reverse psychology always works in my favor. If I were hiding something, my phone would be password protected, and I'd be hesitant to hand it over. You just don't want to do it. He blows a long breath out between his teeth. Next time, think before you fire your wedding planner. He shoves the phone in my hand and drops my purse in the throne-type chair in the corner. Don't forget to call about the wedding favors. It's on the schedule for 3:15. I smirk and clutch the phone in my palm. When should I reschedule? 4-ish? The way this thing is going, 5, just to be sure. The bell above the door chimes at his exit, as do I. I quickly send a text to the wedding favor vendor to reschedule a phone call for tonight and send another one requesting the food be delivered to Celio. Let's put the look together before her father gets here, Voight announces with a slight grumbled pitch. The older woman circles the material over her shoulders, grabs a pedestal, and climbs up to the comb of the very long, very old embroidered veil at the crown of my head. She secures it in place with bobby pins, then says something in Portuguese. It must be about the crown because the designer takes a black velvet box from the glass case and removes the opulent headpiece from between the ebony satin. Your father spared no cost. At seeing the intricate piece of jewelry, the seamstress removes the veil and quickly frees my hair from the ponytail and retwist it into a makeshift updo. She speaks to the designer who translates for her. She's asking if you want to wear the veil over your face or on the way to the altar. Before I can make a decision, he answers for me. Yes, her father wants her to wear it, so we'll need a blusher. She repositions my veil and my crown, then steps down and disappears through a side door along with the designer, leaving me alone to think about another one of my father's tactics. He's presenting me as a new woman, one untouched by a cabriolet. Everyone fucking knows I'm not a virgin, and the shame of having given myself to a cabriolet the family suspected of the massacre is a burden he wants to cover up with all these layers. I don't know what he's fucking thinking. The purity of the white gown doesn't miraculously wipe my sex log, and hiding my face under a veil seems more like shame than modesty. Layer upon layer of sparkling tulle can't hide the emotional scars I bear, and the cathedral length veil cascading down my back won't cover the cross I've had to carry as the unwanted daughter of the most ruthless man in Chicago. Ruthless why? Because he blamed me for the death of my family when it was he who killed them. Okay, one more chapter, then I'm done. Chapter 2, The Chicago Dawn, Isabella Santini. The door to the atelier chimes open, startling both the seamstress, who is pinning something underneath one of the layers of tulle, and me. Isabella! A rotund, burly man walks in with Vinny beside him. I nod at him while bracing myself. Hey, Dad! In public, I have to use the word. At home, I call him Don, and in my head, I've already started calling him Dad. It has a nice ring to it. He comes closer, handing his cigar over to one of his men, who takes it outside. While Pepe removes his suit jacket, Vinny relocates my purse so that Don can sit in his throne. The thickness of his thighs makes it hard for him to cross his leg and rest his ankle on his knee like he used to. So he sprawls out on the chair, occupying every inch of it by spreading his legs and winging out his arms. This whole place, including the huge chandelier at the entrance and the luxurious chairs, has a royal feel to it. The white wallpaper has threads of gold filigree, and the pristine black velvet carpet shows little traffic. I can see why the Don feels right at home here. This place is by appointment only, and appointments are expensive. Even some of the wealthy people in this town aren't rich enough to come here. Celio and Unita have a similar feel to them. Pepe intently watches the seamstress sew the blue piece of my youngest brother's baby outfit on the underlayers of the dress. I stew over the Don's hypocrisy, rage bubbling my blood into a deadly recipe as I watch him play the doting father. My something blue died at the age of 7. He had the bluest eyes, kind of like Pepe's, but more vibrant, almost cerulean. The kind of color painters try to replicate, but never quite get right. I had my mother's eyes, deep chocolate brown, not nearly as beautiful as his. It hurts to remember the blue-eyed boy without remembering him dying in my arms. I choke back the ball of anger, disturbing my throat, and stare at the reflection in the mirror without blinking until everything blurs. You look like your mother, Pepe says, as he sits back and loosens the button at the highest point of his round belly. Those untrue words sting both of us. He carries his guilt, and I carry mine. The day of the massacre, I should have made a fuss and told someone, but the second I stepped foot inside Celio, I was recognized by one of the hostesses and escorted to the waiting room just outside the office. She had knocked on the reserved room's door, but no one answered. No interruptions under any circumstances. That was the rule back then. Now, there are circumstances and protocols, but 12 years ago, brunch was like church to my father. Every Sunday, he spent it with his men discussing business. What happened to brunch? I asked Pepe. Even now, his routine can be calculated down to the minute. Church, brunch, Unita. Time with his daughter has never really been a priority. Thankfully, since I calmed down from my old wild ways, his time with me no longer results in bruises or psychological trauma. Today's special, Isabella. 1 week until your wedding. I want to spend some time together as a family. No, he doesn't. Pepe always has to come off as the perfect father, always in control. Never mind, he stowed me away in a Catholic school on the East Coast at the age of 13, lied to me for years, and then continued to lie to me when he locked me up in the mansion. The only person who cared about himself the only person he cared about was himself and maybe his successor, Tony. Not me. For the longest time, he wished I had died along with my brothers. But now that I'm useful, he wants my wedding guests to see him as a doting father, the man who recreated an empire after his was taken from him, and me as a reformed and obedient wild child who guarantees a future. Did you call and reschedule the wedding favors? Vinny asked, doing little to distract me from my thoughts. I simply nod and sulk in my hate for the men in the room. This stupid dress with the blue patch from my baby brother's newborn outfit and the crown with diamonds Pepe had in custom made for the jewel of his heart. All of this is bullshit. Pretending this wedding is more than Pepe's ultimate power play is an insult to my intelligence. But pretty, tamed girls don't speak unless spoken to. But they think, and they snoop. And I've had a lot of fucking time to do both. The Don shut me up with fear. First, he sent me away because someone wanted me dead. Then he brought me home and locked me up in his mansion, telling me Luca's father had been involved in the massacre. He had proof Luca set the fire with the help of his sister to frame me and get me to run away with him. Pepe claims Luca seduced me in order to murder me, but I never believed him. Luca had plenty of chances to kill me. The multiple times that we were alone provided ample opportunity. So why wait if the objective was to kill me? Of course, when I threw that in the Don's face, he locked me in my room for 2 weeks, not just for being defiant, but for being a whore. I don't even want to think about what came after that. There's no point in reliving those memories. His techniques were effective, and I had no choice but to be convinced. As much as I accustomed myself to his abusive nature, Charlotte would never survive his lessons. While I survived what he calls the Reformation, he portrayed me as the ungrateful daughter who lashed out at the poor, tortured mob boss. People applauded him because he found it in his heart to reform me, to fix me with his love. Love is something he buried with my mother. He fixed me with his lies, with his threats, with his viciousness. Now it is my turn to return the favor. I've been a rebel, a doll, a whore, and a victim, but in 6 days, I'll be the winner. No matter what it takes, who I have to screw or screw over, I will be free from not only his clutches, but from his organization. Dad, I get his attention. Using the affectionate term takes effort, so I pause momentarily to regain my composure. Are you sure no one's going to interrupt the wedding? I need intel on exactly when the extra men are coming in. I mean, no one from the East Coast is going to show up. Valerio steps out of the back room with a sketch pad in hand. He had been working while my father took his time coming over here. No bambola, Pepe tacks on the cute name for the designer's sake. We have taken the necessary precautions to ensure no unwanted visitors. He ends the conversation and nods happily at his friend. Valeria, ciao. Buongiorno, Pepe. Buongiorno, Pepe. He greets in perfect Italian. Stai bien. Non monta, la bambina si sta per sposare. Wow. He uses his hand to point at me and then smooths his shirt down, letting his palm strategically linger over his heart. Mi fa nostalgia. Nina, did you understand any of that? She's married to an Italian y'all, by the way, so that's the reason I ask. It takes all I have not to roll my eyes. My marriage is making him nostalgic about what exactly? Not of me as a child. If he cared, he would have kept me around to watch me grow up. And he wouldn't have tried to break me. But he was too afraid of backlash. Maybe I need to learn Italian instead of Spanish. Not that I have anybody to talk to, but still. Maybe he thought Child Protective Services would have started asking questions about my home life, about why I had been in the treehouse, about what I saw or how no one seemed to notice a 12-year-old girl wet from trying to reach for her brothers in the pool soaked with blood and staining the perfect white couches red? How does a loving father who cares for a child let them wait alone in a restaurant while he drank and ate with his friends? Obviously, one who didn't love his child. I think to myself as I watch Pepe talk to the designer, paying me and the seamstress no mind. She leads me into the dressing room again where I can hear the men talking, discussing my wedding as if it doesn't belong to me. Because it doesn't. Vinny, Beppe says, have the arrangements been made for the extra men? I need them here by Friday for the rehearsal dinner. Actually, sir, they will be here earlier. My ears perk up at Vinny's comment. I usually go with Tony on Tuesdays for the pickup, but with Isabella not confined to the house, someone needs to escort her everywhere, and Tony prefers I be the one doing it, Dawn. I'll go with Tony. That's new. Has he gotten everything taken care of for Friday? The planes are scheduled to start flying in guests during the week. I'd like to have our men there to greet them. Wednesday. Vinny points out the start date. Tony's grandparents are flying in first on Wednesday, along with his mother and 3 of his uncles. I'll be with him, and Isabella is scheduled to be home all day. The extra men will help secure the mansion while we are gone. There's some talk about the mother of the groom's dress with Valerio. By the time they are done, I'm dressed in jeans and a t-shirt and back to my old self. The second I step outside the dressing room, my father's beady eyes are on me. That's what you're wearing to Celio? My father scoffs disapprovingly. I didn't think I'd be going to Celio, I remind him. I haven't been there since. He waves his hand in the air and stands off. It's time for you to go there again, Bambolina. That part of your life is behind you. He laughs and tells the designer, I was in a meeting when my boys were murdered, and my daughter was afraid to knock on the door and disturb me. My eyes jolt up to meet the Don's. He challenges me to interrupt and correct him, but I don't. Good daughter, shut up. The coroner said my mother took a couple of hours to die. The bullet that quickly killed my youngest exited his abdomen and hit her in the spine. Oh, wait a minute. The coroner said her mother took a couple of hours to die. The bullet that quickly killed her, my youngest, exited his abdomen and hit him in the spine. Her internal injuries caused her to bleed out. Had Isabella knocked or called the police, we might have saved my wife. He's not wrong. That's my guilt. That must be horrible, Voight says as Pepe leads us out the door of the atelier. I smile softly and nod my head, confirming Pepe's story. Still hurts to be there. I hadn't been allowed out of the house much, and when I did with Tony, I opted for anywhere away from Old Ridge. Everything here had awful memories associated with it. If I could, I'd light this whole town on fire. Maybe I should add it to the list. One of my helpers enjoys playing with fire. Isabella blames herself. My father walks forward, indicating we would be walking the couple of blocks to the restaurant. Voight walks beside him and the seamstress by my side. Why didn't you tell anyone? Voight asks, much to the surprise of everyone, even the 5 guards with us. I was in shock, I offer. There was a lot of blood and I shut down, which I did. The whole walk over to Celio, I remember the rest of the events of that day. When I get inside, it feels exactly as it did 12 years ago. Even my muscles recall the exhaustion, the panting, the state of confusion. A hostess dressed in vintage Chanel escorts us to my father's reserved room through a private section only used for special guests. I almost topple over when I see nothing has changed. You okay? The seamstress says as she holds my elbow. Yeah, I say softly and turn toward Vinny. Where's Tony? On his way. He clips back. If he noticed my slip, he didn't make a big deal of it. Is it okay if I wait out here for him? I ask Vinny, but it's Pepe who answers me with a quick nod. I'll put your order in. The caterer already dropped the food off the food, Pepe says. Normally I'd be starving by now, but being in this place fills me with sadness, and all I can think about is the family I lost 12 years ago. Vinny, stay with her. My father disappears inside. 2 of the 5 guys follow Pepe. The other 2 take point at the window and in the hallway. Vinny stays by the door, all 3 of them giving me space to mourn. I drag my feet over to the same chair and sit on it, the moments erupting the surface. 12 years ago, I sat in this long chair, terrified. I waited and processed the murder scene, the bodies, their lack of words, their faces, the blue of the water, the blood. Events of that day loop in my mind until they make a consecutive string of words. Tree, screams, guns, run, dead, run. Those 6 words take me back to the day, to 12-year-old me. And that's where I'm stopping because that's a good point to stop at. Yeah. This is good. But, ladies, you need to go read the first 5 books first, don't you? Right? Okay. So, it's called Escaping the Mafia, number 6, 6 Deadly Steps by Sonya Jesus. And I recommend you guys go get it. It sounds like a really good book. It's all about escaping the mafia. I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. It is 99 cents to buy, y'all. So go get it. Go get it and see what it's like. She's willing to start a war for love. Alrighty. So until then, I want everyone to have a one. It's 99 cents, Nina. 99 cents. I just saw it. You don't know what you're talking about. 99 cents or free on KU. So, until then, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Thank you for being mothers. And if you're not a mother, or if you still have a mother with you, Nina, call your Medea and wish them a happy Mother's Day, y'all. It's not easy being a mother. It's not easy being a daughter, but hey, what do I know? Anyway, wish your mother happy Mother's Day while you still have her. This will be my second Mother's Day without mine. And so, yeah, just go wish your mama a happy Mother's Day. All righty. Thank you for joining us tonight, and I appreciate it. And you guys have a wonderful weekend. Happy reading.